Hey gang, Ronan here. As you can see in this game, we've got Alf Radagast playing the Tier 6 Tech Tree German battleship Bayern. What can I tell you about the Bayern? Well, you're probably already familiar, but just in case you're not, this is a battleship that has a base HP, as you can see there, of 51,600. That's, of course, with the Bravo hull. The Alpha hull, you got 43,900. So this is an upgraded Bayern. The guns are 380s. There are 8 of them, 2 barrels on each of 4 turrets. You can see you've got 2 turrets fore, 2 turrets aft. You have to show considerable broadside in order to use the rear guns. 380s are great cruiser killers, but the accuracy on this ship is, well, let's just say it leaves a little bit to be desired. German accuracy, in terms of their battleships at least, well, never going to be all that great. There are some that are better than others, of course, but Bayern, really not that good. Now, one of the advantages of playing as we see here, a ranked match, is that everything else is going to be Tier 6. So everyone else has kind of the same disadvantage. For example, the Mutsu and the New Mexico on the opposing team, the accuracy on those are, well, they're not very good either. Mutsu has torpedoes, so you got to be aware of that. Ismail, that's maybe the strongest battleship at the tier in terms of tech tree. It's a really good ship. And another thing to know about Bayern is it has decent secondaries for a tier 6 battleship. So the guns, I mentioned they're 380s. The reload time base is 30 seconds. 180-degree turn time is a glacially slow 51.43 seconds. Now the maximum dispersion on these guns is 237 meters at of course at max range, and max firing range is 16.12 kilometers. So it's really not terrible, but the Sigma's not all that great, and you'll see that you're going to see shots that look like they probably should land and they just don't. The initial HE shell velocity, 800 meters per second on the HE. HE shells do a maximum of 4,500 damage with a 35% fire chance. The AP shells do a maximum damage of 10,900 HP with the same 800 meters per second initial velocity. Secondaries, well, you've got 88 millimeter flat guns, and well, you'll see. I mean, they'll start firing off here. I think it's the range 7. I think that's right. We'll know here in just a second. Reload time on these secondaries is 4 seconds, and they're HE shells, so you have a chance of starting a fire. Now, the fire chance is not great. It's only 4%, but yeah, you can start some fires that way, and there they go. Maximum HE shell damage in the secondaries is 1,000 hit points, and the initial HE shell velocity is 890 meters per second on these 88s. Now the Ismail is kind of coming around the corner. I think I would aim a little bit farther forward. I would like to keep that front turret. Decent damage, 93 in it, but I think probably could have done a lot more. The Russian battleships are particularly susceptible to broadside shots, and he had Ismail kind of dead to rights there. But this game still works out pretty well. All right, so I've gone through the guns. AA, really not a whole lot to write home about as war spite. Both teams now down 2 ships as Alf maneuvers around the torpedoes. And I think he looks to focus on the destroyer here. Basic concealment on this ship, 13.44 kilometers. And that's surface detectability, and then air detectability range is 8.74. Now, having said all of that, this ship can really struggle against heavily armored opponents that angle, because these are 380s. They're great cruiser killers. A little bit more difficult to place shots on heavily armored battleships that do damage when the battleship is angled. Not that it's impossible, but it is a little bit more challenging. So I'm going to give you the pros from the World of Warships wiki. Armor layout makes her highly resistant to damage. Ships like Buza will have a hard time penetrating her armor. Impressive range, even without the upgraded gunfire control system for spotting aircraft. comparable gun caliber to HMS Queen Elizabeth and Warspite. Comparable, but not as good, at least in my opinion. Good shell velocity, high volume of secondaries with decent range, above average speed and turning characteristics, surprisingly stealthy for a dreadnought, allowing her to close the distance to where her guns will do more damage. And the cons, as the Eagle is trying to start some fires, there's one. Cons: accuracy of her main battery guns is inferior to most other battleships, and the low number of barrels results in low damage output, especially at range. Now, I want to offer a tip of the hat to Alf here, because he had the good sense to slow down, knowing that there were probably torpedoes coming, and as a result, he was able to turn in ahead of the torpedo strike that would almost certainly have finished him off had all of those landed. You can see that Alf is trying to aim into the superstructure area of the ship, but even having done that, you got a ricochet, and that's going to happen a lot when you're firing on battleships in this thing, unless you've got them really, really broadside. But you can see Ismail; he's pretty well angled as Ismail finishes off the Renown, and now the good guys are just down to the Bayern and the Warspite. It's Alf and whoever's playing this Warspite against 4 ships, one of them a sub. This is going to be a real uphill climb, and Alf is confident that's going to finish off the Ismail. It does. Now he has to contend with the Eagle. Now the Eagle fired his torpedoes not long ago, and Alf is close enough now where his secondaries can do some work. Eagle is pretty banged up, and Eagle does poke his head out here. Are there more torpedoes coming? Well, that's very possible, and it looks like Alf, being aware of that, is just going to keep running and try to get ahead of them.
Torpedoes off backboard.
Had that been a better torpedo strike, this might have had a different outcome, but Alf is able to capitalize on that torpedo strike, and he finishes off Eagle, and Solo Fighter 10 is out of the game. Nicely done, Alf. All right, so Alf has picked up 2 kills for himself. Our Warspite player has picked up Soon Dead 007. Yes, you were. So now Bayern is facing off with New Mexico and Cachalot, and I think it's fair to say that Alf really has his hands full here. Now, he has a lot more HP than the New Mexico, especially after that shot, but he is facing a sub as well. And the bad guys have a lead. Alf says, you know what, I'm going to be proactive. I'm going to try and catch that sub that may be pushing in along with the New Mexico. Maybe I get lucky and land some depth charges with that airstrike. See, again, Alf aiming a little bit higher. He doesn't want to bounce off of the side plating on the New Mexico. He's got to show a little bit more side himself in order to get those rear guns in, but you hear my dog in the background. She's trying to tell me that she hears somebody outside. And yeah, that New Mexico, he's just making a YOLO rush there, and he pays the price. At that range, even Bayern isn't going to miss with everything. And now Alf is making really great use of the island. Now, I didn't finish the cons of this ship in all this excitement as Alf lines up some more airstrikes. Accuracy of her main battery guns is inferior to most of the battleships, and the low number of barrels results in low damage output, especially at range. The stock World War I era hull has very poor anti-aircraft defenses, which is true. That's the A hull. Slow turret traverse, very. Slightly longer reload time than most German battleships. AP penetration value drops very significantly over distance due to her light shells. Despite their caliber of 380 millimeters, the AP shells damage is more similar to that of 356 14-inch guns than to other 15-inch guns. And the HE shells do little damage and have low fire command, which makes them ineffective. Now, all of that's true. They can still be very handy against destroyers, but I think most players that are in the Bayern are going to be making use of the AP. And we see Alf squaring off against almost full health sub here. And he does manage to secure the cap, so I really have to say that I think the red team sub kind of has misplayed this. And Alpha's played really well.
Torpedos voraus.
Now we need some music from das Boot. Alpha's hoping to come around the corner and surprise the sub, maybe sitting on the surface. No, not going to surprise him, but he is going to know right where he's at and be able to set up his airstrike, get the guns where, holy cow, the sub player is just going to sit right out there in the open. Come on, drop. Okay, so he does land at least some splash damage. He uses the island to stop and then backs away from the torpedo strike. Nicely done, Alf. That was really well done. A lot of players, and you've probably had a lot of them on your team, would just rush right around the corner and eat a face full of torpedoes and get sunk, and that would be the end of the game for the red team. Alf said, nope, I'm not having any of that. I'm going to sit here. I'm going to make that sub come to me. I've got a points lead. I've got a caps lead. And we've still got 9 minutes. But if that sub gets close enough to me that my secondaries can go to work, well, there's that. And if he gets detected within my airstrike depth charge, he's in big trouble as well. Okay, so there's... Now, we know the torpedoes are coming, right? And probably going to eat some of those. There comes the depth charges. Come on, get him. Oh, there's that glacially slow turret traverse. And now Alf is probably right on top of the sub. The sub player is probably just looking up at the bottom of the hull of Alf's ship. And Alf says, you know what? I got a plan for you, buddy. I think that was a great drop. It really was. Here they come. Ouch. That hurt. But Alf is able to secure the win. Nicely done. So that's 4 kills and finished off a sub to win the game. Pretty sweet. Okay, so there are the final stats. 100,000 damage, 38 shells on target, shot down an aircraft, 4 ships destroyed, lots of fires, 6 fires, that's nice. 2,032 base XP, very strong. Put shells on quite a few things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different ships. Started some fires. Not a lot of damage, but still, you know, in some cases that might have made the difference, where teammates caught them on fire afterwards or hit them with torpedoes or some such. Credit and XP, pretty decent. Obviously running some signals and flags. Alf, you played a great game. Those of you watching, I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, I hope you'll like and subscribe. Maybe point your friends this direction, and I'll see you next time.